This is Valley of Tears from MMP Games. This is the latest one in the Battalion Combat series. We're going to have a quick video looking at the air system for this game, which is totally unique to BCS. So what you have your two fronts here. Now Israeli Air Force is based out of this, but they can fly they can sort of fly they can fly to both, but there are restrictions on that. There's what we call a split chart, and this sort of tells you how you split up your various aircraft, okay, into what they call tasking, which are mission types. So the 6th has a special one, so everything's concentrating on the Sinai. You've got 2 into the 7 and Sinai, 2 Golan, and you've got 1 that you can put anywhere, okay? So basically what you do is you don't have to roll a dice on the 6th, it's already decided to, but after the 6th you roll die and it sort of decides which is the primary front or which is the secondary front. Now there is a rule where you can get round that and just use your aircraft wherever you want, but I'm not going to be playing with that rule. It's an optional rule. The next thing you do is you're tasking. Now certain aircraft can only do certain things. Now air superiority, only aircraft with a red band across the top, you see that little square with a red band there, can do air superiority. SEAD is a special Israeli mission, which is SAM suppression, and that has a picture of a SAM missile with a no sort of entry marker across the front of it, and it's got a SEAD track on it showing how much suppression you've got on the actual battery system. Then you've got CAS. CAS, you've got to have a bomb in the bottom left corner there to do a CAS mission. And then your deep strikes, you've got to have a diamond on it. Deep strike is an Israeli only thing. You get the impression the Israeli Air Force is a lot more sophisticated than the Arab ones, and you'll be right. You have ram strikes here, which are attacks on air bases, and this can put Egyptian units out of the game for a few turns, and it can even destroy units on the runway. Okay, and then you've got Dominique strikes. These are effectively logistical strikes, and these cause snafu, negative snafu rollings for the Arabs. Okay, if we look at the other side of it, the Sinai, the Egyptians were already pretty much decided. That's on the setup. They were already allocated to their air missions. It works in the same way as that the Egyptian Air Force has only got the ability to do air support and close air support. Sorry, air superiority and close air support. Golan, similar sort of thing. Arab, you've got an air superiority and a CAS box. The first thing you do for each front is you work out your air superiority. Now your air superiority is a 2 die. You roll 2 dice, okay, and you cross-reference it against this set of numbers at the top here. Now if you've got a 3 or more advantage, you can get column shifts, and when it means a 3 or more advantage, that means more aircraft. So say I had 5 Arab Air Force planes flying air superiority in Sinai, and I had 8 Israeli ones. I would get, because I've got 3 extra Israeli ones, I'd get a +1 column shift on whatever die roll I made. So if we look here on the Golan, we rolled on the 7 to 10. There's no column shifts because they're fairly equal in the number of planes. But we ended up rolling a 7 to 10, which is an Israeli level 1 superiority. This then gives you a series of what I call factorials, really, that go down here. Now, so the first thing we did is we got a D7 and a D3. That means for every 7 Israeli air superiority planes, well, they're not actually planes, they're in pairs. You've got to fly them as 2s or in pairs of 1s, okay? Like when you lose a step, you go to a 1, all right? So that means if I'd got 7 Israeli planes, I would roll 1 dice on the loss abort table. Now, think about loss aborts. If you're doing air superiority, aborts have no effect, and no effect has no effect. The only one that is really important is your step loss. Okay. Now, okay, so say I had, instead of having 7 aircraft, I had 8 aircraft. I'd roll once for the 7, and then I've got a remainder of 1, which means that's a second roll, okay? So you're basically taking your total number of aircraft and dividing it by this number, okay? So if I have a D3 here and a 5 Arab air superiority aircraft, I would roll 1 loss abort for the 3, and then I'd roll another loss abort for the 2, which is the partial remainder, okay? If you look down the table, you can see there are these D numbers for all types of mission. So Israeli SAM suppression missions, for every 2 planes you roll a die. And for any partials, of course, just take that as red. Same for deep strike, and for Israeli CAS inside the flat battery range. The flat battery range is this green dotted hex here. Okay, if you're flying Israeli missions outside that SAM belt, you are able, you don't take losses or aborts. Okay. You'll see there's an entry for the Arab CAS as well, and basically you do all your rolling, and if you're rolling for CAS and for SIAD and deep strike, etc., if you get an abort, the plane is aborted, okay? It doesn't go on to complete its mission. Okay, so all of these matter for a CAS. So 1, you'd take a step loss and abort. 2 to 3, you'd abort. 4 to 6, you carry on and do your mission. Okay. Now, once you've got all your aircraft either lost or aborted, or through, completed on the mission, it generates a set of attacks. Right. So if you're looking at CAS, for every aircraft that gets through Arab, you get 2 ground strike things. So there's one pair of Arab planes got through here, so that gives me 2 Syrian ground attacks. Okay. Israelis, I had 2 aircraft getting through again, but each Israeli one generates 3 attacks. So that gives me 6 Israeli attack points on the Golan Heights. Okay, so that's how your CAS stuff is worked out. Your SIAD, for every aircraft that gets through on its mission, gives you a SIAD level of 1. So 1 Israeli aircraft got through on the Sinai site, which gives us SIAD +1. The aircraft flying Golan SIAD was aborted. Okay. The other things are your deep strike and your deep strike, which are the 2 different types of missions which you then put on here. So each aircraft getting through, whether it's a pair or a single aircraft, will generate 1 point on this. Okay, So your RAM results are attacking airfields. Okay. So you've got you throw for a sideline, number of turns until return, and number of air units destroyed. Okay. For your logistical attacks, you've got a 1 here. It's because 1 aircraft got through doing logistical attacks. That gives you a -1 snafu roll for the Egyptians. Okay. Just let me check something. Okay, yeah, what happens for each box you score on the RAM results, you throw 1 dice for your sideline period. So 1 has no effect. 2 to 5 is the number of turns until 1 aircraft returns. And if you throw a 6, an air unit's destroyed. Now, it's up to the owning player to select the aircraft that are delayed or actually destroyed, so they can sacrifice a single plane rather than taking a 2-step loss. Alright, so you'd be a bit daft if you select, if you got an air unit destroyed and you had a partial and a full air unit, you'd be a bit daft if you destroyed your full air unit, because you don't have to, you can destroy your partial instead. So that is the gist of the air combat system, and it basically results in attack points, aerial attack points or air points, which can be used in the ground game. Plus it gives you snafu, dice modifiers, and it can delay some other aircraft. And obviously during the fighting you're going to end up losing aircraft, and these can be rebuilt with replacements, and new air units will come in as the game progresses. So that gives you a pretty good overview of the air combat system for Valley of Tears.